What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So I want to talk Baltimore Ravens, and you think the Ravens, you think of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's a baller, stud, one of the best. As good an athlete you'll see at the quarterback position. But some of the free agent acquisitions they made. Rock Ya-Sin, the corner, started his career in Indianapolis. Was a guy who, started off playing pretty well there, but then he just never really became anything super good at the corner position. They add him. I think he'll add some depth. Maybe he does get some playing time. They got Marlon Humphrey there, one of the better corners in the NFL. Wide receiver, they added Nelson Aguilar and Odell Beckham. It'll be exciting to see what Odell Beckham looks like. He may not, to say he's going to look like prime Odell Beckham, I think is asking a lot. But can Odell Beckham, can he be in shape? Can he really contribute? Can he add some life into this offense? They do have Rashad Bateman. Another guy, kind of like, I guess a little like Rock Ya-Sin. A lot of people thought Rashad Bateman was going to kind of become like that next, going to become a really good player at wide receiver. He was in a really good draft class too. But Bateman, is a guy that really looks the part with his size. I mean, can work underneath routes. He's got pretty good hands overall, but just he's never going to be like a dominant threat where defenses are like super concerned about, and you're going to have to add, do anything special as far as double teams or any, playing him a different way. But with Baltimore also, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, really nice linebacking core. I was talking about Roquan Smith on TikTok and YouTube, and I posted a short about him earlier. Yeah, I mean, Patrick Queen, a guy that came in, is kind of a victim of his own success, came into the league and played really well, and then just kind of, his play just kind of leveled off. He never really kept getting better. I think there's been several linebackers coming into the league like that. Devin Bush, Tremaine Edmonds, who's now with the Bears, who was with the Bills. The guys that, they come in, young, talented linebackers, they can run well, and they play well early on, and then everyone just they keep expecting more from them, and they just, they're still solid, but, I don't know, but when I do watch Queen, though, he is a rock solid player. He's a good tackler. He's physical. He looks the part. I mean, he's a guy that does have some coverage ability. Got good hands, can create interceptions. And Roquan Smith too. I mean, he's a good player, not a like a elite player. And that's the problem I have when I look at like the Baltimore Ravens offense. It's a lot of good, but there's there's really no like clear difference makers on the Baltimore Ravens roster. But Trenton Simpson was a guy they drafted, a linebacker out of Clemson. I'm a big fan of Trenton Simpson's game. He's a super athletic linebacker. Where he kind of fits with the Baltimore Ravens should be interesting. He's a guy that's going to be like Malik Harrison. He's a guy that's going to play kind of like the weak side linebacker. You can use him out in the nickel. I think that was the idea with Simpson. Because when they traded for Roquan Smith, Malik Harrison kind of becomes the odd man out at linebacker. Maybe he gets cut. Maybe Simpson kind of becomes that guy that'll be like the nickel guy, be kind of like a rotational guy for Smith and Roquan, or for Smith and Queen, excuse me. So, where Trenton Simpson fits with this Baltimore Ravens defense and what impact he has year one will be interesting. Ravens still have Marcus Williams, too, the safety. Williams is a really nice player, too. This guy that played in 10 games this year was injured. They signed him as a free agent. He was with the Saints. Really nice player. He was a guy that, he's kind of your typical. I say he wasn't necessarily your typical free agent. The Saints they were in deep trouble as far as the salary cap concerned. Even though I think they did want to keep him, but Marcus Williams, when he was healthy this year, was a nice player. 4 interceptions for him. They did last year. Baltimore Ravens killed the draft. You saw these rookies make an impact. I don't think maybe none of them are going to be elite. It's ironic. The draft they had kind of reminds me of their team. They drafted a lot of good players, but no true elite difference makers. Tyler Linderbaum, a good player, but he is a center, and if you draft when you take, there's not like center is a position where there's just not a lot of elite guys. I talk maybe Frank Ragnow, Jason Kelsey, maybe the two elite centers in the National Football League. If a guy's playing center, he's playing center for a reason. Maybe he's a little undersized. Maybe the lateral movement skills aren't as great. Maybe his overall, pass blocking, run, yeah, I guess you get the point I'm trying to make. There's a reason guys are moved to center. You maybe shorter arms, but yeah, Linderbaum was a very good player at Iowa. But like, is he like a mauler, just totally just butt kicking guy? Probably not, but a good player nonetheless. Kyle Hamilton, I was not like. So a lot of people were giving him the label as generational safety. I was not ready to say that with Kyle Hamilton. I think he's a good player. I think he's got versatility. He's a guy that can blitz off the edge, but I was not ready to say that Kyle Hamilton was going to be like an elite safety. But he's been a nice player in year one, and we'll see how he continues to as his career moves forward. But yeah, with Baltimore, I still got Jason Owe. Jason Owe is a guy that's pretty good against the run, an incredible athlete at defensive end. Goes by Odafe Owe. So yeah, Odafe Owe has been a nice player, good against the run. Has not really developed into the pass rusher I thought. He was a dude that was just like a freak show at the combine, running in the 4.3s. The Ravens, I mean, the D-line, they've been pretty solid. Secondary, like I touched on, Marlon Humphrey, one of the better corners in the NFL. And, the defense should be fine. It'll just be, Lamar Jackson, can he stay healthy? J.K. Dobbins, his health. I like what J.K. Dobbins brings. He's got some quickness. He's got some burst. He's a guy that knows how to, really hit the hole and get to the second level, pick up a big gain. And the Ravens' offensive line is pretty nice overall. Ronnie Stanley, he's been a good left tackle. Ben Powers did some nice things. Linderbaum, like I touched on. So, I mean, Baltimore, a lot of good, but can they get past the Bengals? Or can they get past, there's going to be one team that could be kind of a thorn in their side. Can they get past them in the playoffs will be the big question I have with the Baltimore Ravens. So let's talk New Orleans Saints. Saints took Brian Brzee in the first round this year. It was a pick that really made a lot of sense because New Orleans Saints don't really have a lot of depth on the defensive interior. They did maybe a couple years ago, but they've lost some guys. They no longer have Marcus Davenport. Sheldon Rankins did some nice things for him. He's no longer there. But yeah, you got Cam Jordan, defensive end. Cam Jordan, a veteran, one of the better defensive ends in the National Football League. Demario Davis is a legit top 5 linebacker. And Davis, you don't have to look too hard when you're watching Saints games to find Demario Davis flying around. Pete Warner's been pretty solid for him at linebacker. I really like Paulson Adebo. He's a guy that really flies around. He's a big hitting corner. Lante Taylor did some nice things as a rookie. You got Tyrann Mathieu in the secondary. You got Marcus May. So yeah, New Orleans, I mean, across the board, offensive line, you got Ramczyk at tackle. You got Andres Pete, Cesar Ruiz, Elvin Kamara. They signed Derek Carr, 4-year, $100 million. So yeah, I mean, the Saints, there's pieces in place to be one of those teams that didn't make the playoffs last year and then makes the playoffs this year. They're definitely in that discussion. So, how big of an impact Derek Carr will have is a big question. But, I think the Saints is a nice fit for Derek Carr. I think it's a team that makes a lot of sense for him because, solid to good offensive line, receiving core with Michael Thomas. You saw Chris Olave played well, the rookie from Ohio State at receiver. So, yeah, Derek Carr in the Saints in a good position to really improve this year and really have a chance to win a weakened division where you're going to play Carolina, who's likely going to have a rookie quarterback, even though a pretty good roster. You're going to have the Buccaneers without Tom Brady, even though they still have a talented roster overall. And then you have why am I drawing a blank on the other team in the division? the Atlanta Falcons. You still have the Atlanta Falcons, who you could argue is still in somewhat of a rebuild. But yeah, Tampa Bay. People talk like Tampa Bay is going to be a bad team next year. I can't really go that far. I mean, you look Whitfield at safety. I mean, Jamel Dean, Vita Vea. I feel like there's just too much talent. Unless they have like a massive injuries for Tampa Bay to really collapse this year. I love the Cody Mock pick by Tampa Bay because you got Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, but it's been an offensive line. The rest of the offensive line, kind of a question mark. But yeah, you had Cody Mock in that defensive interior. That fills a really nice need for the Buccaneers. So yeah, Tampa Bay, not ready to say this is a rebuilding team at all. Let's talk Buffalo Bills. So yeah, Buffalo Bills didn't really do a whole lot of work in free agency. Brought in Damian Harris, a guy who's been a nice player for the New England Patriots, former Alabama running back. Taylor Rapp, safety. Taylor Rapp is a guy that with the Rams kind of just struggled to get on the field just because the Rams had so many safeties. But Taylor Rapp is a good player. So yeah, the Bills didn't really do a whole lot in free agency. Dalton Kincaid, Osiris Torrance were the two guys they took in the draft. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah, and then Osiris Torrance, the guard out of Florida. So yeah, I mean the Bills likely going to be the favorites to win the division. When you have Josh Allen on your team, there's usually a good chance you're going to win the whatever division you're in. You're going to win a lot of football games. But yeah, I mean the receiving core. Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs is going to be good. James Cook, we'll see. Is James Cook going to become like is he going to become the every down running back? At Georgia, kind of was just I don't want to say scat back, but more of a little bit more of a receiving back. We'll see if James Cook can kind of can he improve and build upon what he did as a rookie. So yeah, I mean Buffalo. They've got some pieces. Tre'Davious White at corner. They re-signed Poyer at safety. So yeah, Buffalo, man. I mean, there's no excuses for why they shouldn't win the division again. We'll talk New England Patriots. So New England, I mean, if you look at the New England Patriots, they really are just a team that it's hard for them. This is a team. Okay, so let's say you think Bill Belichick is a very good coach, which I would say he is. Some maybe question that now. This roster lacking talent. It's going to be so hard for them to make a run in the playoffs with this because it's a lot. It's kind of like they're like the Ravens, except I would say maybe even a notch below. It's just a lot of solid players, but really a lot of guys that just. I mean, Jabril Peppers is the example of one of their starters. I mean, Peppers. I love him. He's former Michigan Wolverine, but he's just really just a solid, almost hustle guy in the NFL. Jelani Tavai was a guy that Detroit didn't want anymore. He's just a solid, hustle guy, average starter. It's just a lot. It's too many guys like that on the New England Patriots that are just average players, average to above average. In the NFL, average to above average doesn't win, championships. It doesn't win playoff games. It really is. It's lucky to get you 7-8 wins anymore. Maybe a playoff berth if you're, in a bad division or, you get hot late or you win the right games. But yeah, I don't. It's New England. Mac Jones. Mac Jones. The more I watched Mac Jones, the more I started to like his game. No, he is a pretty accurate passer. I think, it'll be interesting to see how well he plays this year. But yeah, I mean, New England. I mean, the offensive line, it's okay. The receiving core. It's still it's lacking a little bit. No, they lose Nelson Aguilar. They did not. Jacoby Myers is not coming back. Defensively, drafted Christian Gonzalez, the corner out of Oregon. Gonzalez, very good athlete, moves super well. I'm sure that's definitely going to be a boost in the secondary. I like Kyle Duggar. I think Kyle Duggar is a good player. He's a physical, hard-hitting safety. They drafted Keon White, the defensive end out of Georgia Tech. White was a guy who I didn't really deep dive into his tape, but there's a lot of things to like about Keon White's game. He's a physical player. This guy that it sounded like he hasn't really played like a lot of football. I think he was a guy that started to play football late. So maybe there's really more meat on the bone for New England to get from Keon White. So yeah, that'll be interesting. So start with the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos in the offseason traded for Russell Wilson. You saw Russell Wilson really did not play very well in Denver. It's too bad because a lot of people thought Russell Wilson was the missing piece to the Denver Bronco offense. They thought he was going to be like Aaron Rodgers this year. They thought Russell Wilson was enough to get them over the top, maybe get a playoff run. You look at the Broncos roster, it's still a good roster. I mean, Garrett Bowles is a nice left tackle. Patrick Surtain maybe is the best corner in football. He's my number 3 corner. Some people do have him as the number 1 corner, but yeah. I mean, it's a really good, solid roster. Sean Payton, now the head coach, can he get more out of Russell Wilson? Can he get more out of this offense? You got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, nice pieces at wide receiver. Cameron Fleming on the offensive line. Running back. They have who is what's the guy's name? Came out of North Carolina. Javonte Williams, good player as well. Dulcich, the tight end, showed some flashes. Defensively, they lost. They got rid of Bradley Chubb in the middle of the year last year. But I mean, overall, the Broncos, they could be a rebound team. I remember their over and under win total last year heading into the 2022 season was really high. They failed to live up to that expectations. It was just a super disappointing team with all things considered. But it's they in the draft they took Marvin Mims, a wide receiver out of Oklahoma. I think he'll be a good piece. He's a guy that can stretch the field, can work out of the slot. And, I mean, there's still a lot to like about this Broncos team. So, I think I'm excited to see how Sean Payton does in his first season. It seems like a lot of people are optimistic about the Broncos, so I guess we'll see. So let's talk some of the top edge rushers in football. And start with Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa, former Ohio State Buckeye. Bosa's a big dude, and he uses his size and length very well. He's a guy that has some power. He's a guy that was hurt this year, but yeah, Bosa, when he's on the field though, he is a difference maker. He's very good against the run, dominant against tight ends, and yeah, He's been a really good he's been a really good player for a long time for the Chargers. So, yeah, Joey Bosa is certainly one of the top edge rushers. TJ Watt, 2021 Defensive Player of the Year. And rightfully so. This guy's just been super productive when he's played full seasons, and certainly is one of the top guys in the NFL. Myles Garrett. If you remember Myles Garrett coming out of college, there was some people were wondering, he was drawing so much attention towards the end of his college career that a lot of his the better teams just, double teamed him, said, we're not letting Myles Garrett beat us. So, but Cleveland didn't overthink it, and they took Myles Garrett first overall, and that has paid off in a huge way because Myles Garrett just balls out. That's all this guy does. I mean, it's all there. I mean, incredible muscle build, size, length. I mean, speed to power is excellent. And he can dominate any tackle. I mean, I was watching the tape against the Baltimore Ravens. Ronnie Stanley was one of the better left tackles in football. He could just push him back, really got him with the speed to power, really challenged Ronnie Stanley's anchor. So, yeah, Myles Garrett a man amongst boys. You saw him in that suit in the NFL draft, and you see him with a shirt off. The dude is just ripped and an excellent player. Micah Parsons up there too. Micah Parsons, as good as it gets as far as maybe he's probably the best all-around defensive player. Maybe Aaron Donald. Micah Parsons, Aaron Donald, I think are two best all-around defensive players. But if you're talking strictly edge rusher, Micah Parsons may not be number one, but he's up there. I mean, he's going to play defensive end full time. He's bulking up. Yeah, Micah Parsons, I mean, if you watch Cowboys games, you don't have to look too closely to see Micah Parsons flying around, running sideline to sideline. Just a total package as far as like elite skills that you want in a defender. Micah Parsons offers that. Max Crosby, another guy for the Las Vegas Raiders. Max Crosby always is hustling, always plays hard. He's tough as heck. One of the few bright spots of the Las Vegas Raiders defense these past few years. So, yeah, big fan of Max Crosby's game. He's a guy that was just like super productive coming out of Eastern Michigan, and that's translated well in the NFL. Slipped in the draft to the 4th round, but that certainly has been that pick has paid dividends. So, yeah, Max Crosby, absolute beast as well. Nick Bosa, too. Nick Bosa, you saw what an impact he made for the 49ers right after they drafted him. And he's just been rock solid in the NFL. And, there was a couple years ago, he could have a case for the best edge rusher. I think, he doesn't have I don't think he has his high-end traits as like Parsons, Myles Garrett, maybe even TJ Watt, but like, Nick Bosa he's just a very, very good football player, and he makes an immediate impact. Like Myles Garrett, he gets off the snap very quickly. I mean, he challenges offensive tackle in that aspect just by the way he gets off the ball and how quickly he can do so. Other guys, Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick had a nice year this year. Rashawn Gary, a guy who struggled early on in the NFL, but that seemed to kind of figure things out and get better and better. Was a big-time recruit coming out of high school and had a nice career at Michigan. Some would call it underwhelming, but it's good to see Rashawn Gary kind of figure things out in the NFL and really become a good player in his own right. So other guys, Von Miller, still going strong in his older age, was injured a little bit this year, but you saw what the impact this guy has when he's healthy. And is a guy that just, I got to talk to Jair Alexander when I was doing corners. Von Miller just has a knack for stepping up in big-time games, whether it was 2015 Super Bowl or in the playoffs for the LA Rams when they won the Super Bowl this past year. Von Miller just seems to relish in the big stage and still going strong in his older age. Brian Bird's another guy. Brian Bird's he's been a really good player. Was pegged a really good player coming out in the 2019 NFL draft, and he's just he seems like good, projected to be a good player and has been a good player. So Brian Burns, I think the only negative, I don't think Brian Burns will probably ever be in the discussion as like maybe a top 5, top 8 guy, but is going to be a good player for a long time, and Carolina certainly hit on that pick, and they got them a rock-solid player there. Other guys, Montez Sweat. Montez Sweat, just a freak athlete, very, very good edge rusher as well. Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals. The Bengals paid Hendrickson a lot of money, and he's done a really good job and has really lived up to the hype of getting paid that much. So let's talk Jacksonville Jaguars. I have been a big fan of the Jaguars roster. I mean, it all starts with Trevor Lawrence. It was fun to see how much he improved as a rookie till this, and now in the second year. Tyson Campbell's becoming one of the best corners in the NFL. I was a huge Andre Sisco fan, the safety they drafted. It was a shame he tore his ACL his last year in 2020 at Syracuse. Under Urban Meyer, I thought it was a little head-scratching that they weren't getting him more snaps, but you saw Sisco play more this year, and you saw him really flash the excellent skill set he has. Anton Harrison seemed like an outstanding pick for Jacksonville. That seems like a pick that's just what the doctor ordered for Jacksonville, because Jacksonville, you look at their roster, they got pieces everywhere. They've kind of filled holes everywhere after drafting Trevor Lawrence, and you add Anton Harrison, a really nice tackle who's like kind of like where Brian Burns, maybe Anton Harrison never develops into a like elite top 5, maybe even top 10 tackle, but he's going to be a really good tackle for a long time. He's a guy that's just smooth. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Christian Darrisaw now with the Vikings. Darrisaw, smooth player. Anton Harrison's just, he goes out there and gets the job done. I mean, when I was scouting him, you don't really go, I didn't give him as high a grade as I thought, but you don't go, yeah, he's not like a great elite athlete. He's not, the lateral movement isn't great or elite at all, but the guy just, he blocks and stays in front of people, and he's strong as heck. And so Anton Harrison's got a chance to have a really, really good career for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Devin Lloyd was playing well early on, and then kind of just tailed off. I don't know what happened, but Lloyd, the consensus 1 or 2 linebacker in the 2022 NFL draft, but yeah, Lloyd's play towards the end was a little disappointing. They got Alua Khan at linebacker 2, who's one of the faster linebackers in the NFL. Josh Allen at defensive end. Allen, he was a guy that a lot of people have just kind of been waiting when he's gonna get things figured out, and he's been pretty underwhelming. I mean, this is a guy that, speed and quickness off the ball was the name of his game coming out of Kentucky, and it has not necessarily translated well to the NFL. A lot of people were thinking he was going to kind of figure it out in the NFL, and he hasn't really yet, sadly. But I mean, maybe this is the year he puts it all together. Can kind of refine some pass rush moves, because at this point that's what you're kind of hoping with Josh Allen, that he's just going to have razor sharp pass rush skills, because the power, the quickness and power combination he had hasn't really been enough to turn him into an elite player. But yeah, Jacksonville secondary: Tyson Campbell, Andre Sisco, guys I like. Devin Lloyd. They took Chad Muma. I was hoping Muma was going to play a little bit more this year. I think he did a little bit, and I saw him a little bit in fill-in duty. But yeah, I mean, all over the board, nice pieces, especially at wide receiver, Kelvin Ridley. Kelvin Ridley looks hungry to prove a lot of people wrong. They also have Christian Kirk. Looks like Christian Kirk showed people that he was worth all that money. Did a really nice job this past year for Jacksonville. And, they lose Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones heading back to Detroit. And, Travis Etienne balled out. It was fun to see Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne out there. Those guys, that'll be a fun quarter QB running back combination, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. Man, early on I was getting worried maybe Travis Etienne was going to be a bust, but he's really showed that he can be. He's a good NFL running back, and he just this is a guy that just runs. He runs hard. He runs just to quickly make you miss and get upfield. He's got a little bit of shake and break down and make you miss, but he wants to just get upfield and run physical and just kind of stop quickly and get around you. So. Yeah, Travis Etienne has been excellent at running back for him, which is big. And you saw with Doug Peterson coaching them what they could really get out of this Jacksonville team. And Jacksonville is would be one of my teams that I would pick for the Super Bowl. I think it's a pick where I think it's a fun pick, because it's not, you're kind of going a little bit against like consensus, because like, I don't know, off the top of my head, you think I would think Chiefs, and I don't know. Chiefs and Eagles could, I don't know. We don't see a lot of rematches, but Chiefs and Eagles could be a likely case. But like, to be honest, I could see Jacksonville is a team that they just keep building and building, and they check all the boxes and have all the ingredients of a Super Bowl team, because Doug Peterson showed he is a good coach. Whether you want to debate, is he a great coach, elite coach? That's a different argument. But he is a good coach, and he's won a Super Bowl, so they check that box. You have a really good quarterback, borderline elite quarterback now. If Lawrence continues to play at this level, and then you have speed athletes on defense. You have a good, a solid offensive line at least. So yeah, and you have playmaking receivers and a playmaking running back. So there's a lot of boxes are checked for Jacksonville to potentially make a Super Bowl run next year. Let's talk Tennessee Titans. So I talked a little bit. If you have my TikTok and you're watching my YouTube shorts, DeAndre Hopkins was meeting with the Tennessee Titans. That move makes a lot of sense for the Tennessee Titans because they have just been starving to get another good wide receiver. They traded away A.J. Brown, which is not looking so hot because Brown was a key piece on helping the Eagles get to the Super Bowl. So you add in, you lose him. You draft Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks, I would be real concerned if I'm a Titans fan. There is flashes, and you see. He is fairly athletic, but you just don't see – he does not strike – like I thought Treylon Burks had a chance to be as good as A.J. Brown, but maybe a little better. Now if he's as good as A.J. Brown, I feel like that's asking a lot at this point. Like his floor maybe – I don't even know. His floor may be just a solid wide receiver now. I mean, it's which he may just be an average to solid wide receiver, which is disappointing because this is a guy – Titans fans, the Titans organization had high hopes for taking him in the first round. They traded for him, and now he's underwhelming. And he was a bit underwhelming in his rookie year, and not necessarily trending upwards. Where by that I mean you haven't really seen anything late in the season where this guy could get back on track and become a good player. And then Caleb Farley too was a corner that they took in the first round, was dealing with a Tiger Woods back injury, had some serious concerns. Titans rolled the dice, took him in the first round. You've seen that Caleb Farley, it hasn't worked out. He's been hurt, and when he has played, he hasn't really been a difference maker. At times looks like he's like thinking too much and it doesn't even look like he knows what he's doing. So, yeah, I mean, the Titans, I mean, they've got some pieces. I think they're really lacking, a couple elite playmakers. I feel like that's the case with a lot of NFL teams. Like I touched on the Broncos, it's a lot of good players, a lot of solid players, but you have to have true elite difference makers. I go back; it's like the argument for the Bengals drafting Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Like, okay, Joe Burrow was the pick. Okay. I guess that pick no one complained about because Joe Burrow, consensus quarterback, Bengals needed a quarterback, Bengals are really bad. So check, as far as, that pick making sense. But, the next year you take Jamar Chase in the first round. After in 2020 you took Joe Burrow. And so, wide receiver, was that their biggest need? Offensive line, probably more so of a need. Penei Sewell was there. But, Jamar Chase is an elite difference maker. So back-to-back years, you got elite difference maker in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and look at what it translated to. So that's the thing. With Denver, back to Denver. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is a solid receiver. Cortland Sutton's showed he's a good, above average good receiver. But just Garrett Bowles is a good tackle. But just there's no elite difference makers. I mean, when the Broncos won the Super Bowl, I guess they didn't necessarily have a lot, but they definitely had one in Von Miller. So the Broncos have been a weird team because they're a team where they had the Peyton Manning year, won the Super Bowl in the end, were pretty good a few years after, really fell off, and then it seems like it was a slow rebuild, and now they're back to being well, with the exception this year, they're okay and they're a solid roster. But how is there enough moving the needle, and is there enough evidence that we have that they can really turn this around next season? Is the big question with Denver. Yeah, we'll talk Indianapolis Colts. So Anthony Richardson. Hopefully Richardson starts as a rookie. I'm dying to see Anthony Richardson in the NFL. I'm just so curious to see how his game translates to the next level because, we haven't really seen. I guess you could argue Josh Allen, but you haven't really seen a situation like this in a while. Maybe going back to Michael Vick, where you have a freakish athlete at quarterback who I don't even know with Michael Vick. but a guy who did go first round, and the traits, and you're banking just on the traits, and I back up the takes where everyone. I'll give credit to Sam Munson from Pro Football Focus. I back up his take where he's like, if a guy has all these tools, wouldn't you say he has a high floor? Like, how many guys? Like, isn't it harder to fail when you have such high end traits? Like, I don't know. It's and he's got the work ethic. He sounds like a good guy. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm rooting for Anthony Richardson. I like him. I like his skill set. I love his athleticism. I'm rooting for Anthony Richardson. I want to see him do well, and I'm so excited to see what he can do in this Colts offense. They have the receiver Alec Pierce, who did a nice job as a rookie. Colts offensive line, pretty solid overall. You got one of the best running backs in football, Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman Jr. has emerged as a good receiver. Pittman Jr. coming out of college, I wasn't sure how good of a receiver he would be, but he's a guy that's his game. What you saw in college is what you're getting in the NFL. Just a really good player, and a guy that utilizes his skill set to the max, I would say, because can win jump balls, gets off the line of scrimmage, knows how to run routes. He just a good all-around wide receiver. And, the Colts, defensively, you lose Gilmore, which is tough at corner. Rock Ya-Sin, no longer there, too. Rock Ya-Sin, kind of a disappointment, too. I thought Rock Ya-Sin would be a solid starter, but he's not in the future plans with the Colts, and they chose to move on there. You got Julian Blackmon, a nice player. Darius Leonard, hopefully, is healthy at linebacker. DeForest Buckner, one of the best interior defensive linemen. I like what I've seen out of the two edge rushers they took in the 2021 draft in Kwity Paye and Deo Odangbo. Odangbo was a power guy, and that's really what he's been. Kwity Paye is a guy that maybe could have like a breakout year this year. There's a guy coming out of Michigan that had a lot of hype, and he's been pretty solid. Just a young guy, kind of like with Josh Allen. You wonder if Kwity Paye is just kind of figure things out and really get it rolling. But yeah, Colts will be fun. Colts should be fun. I would say this year was definitely a disappointment. I know the Colts were like the Broncos. There was a lot of people that were hyping them up. But let's talk Washington Commanders for a minute. So Washington running back, I'm drawing a blank on the running back. He played at Alabama. Brian Robinson, a nice player. Receiving core, McLaurin's been a really good player. I think their offensive line has been okay. You saw Cosme, the tackle has been decent. Washington, a team where, I like that the way they were building it a couple years ago. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, they really emphasized building the defensive line. Montez Sweat, Deron Payne got a really nice payday, but I don't really like that Washington, it seems like some of their other draft picks are just questionable. Like they took Emmanuel Forbes this year, and I think Forbes might be a good player. He's a guy that just created a ton of pick sixes coming out of Mississippi State, but to me that was just not, I don't know. I mean, I think Forbes could play right away. To me that was just not a good pick because I don't know, it seems like Washington just cannot seem to find difference makers at wide receiver, at quarterback. We'll see if Sam Howell is the guy this year. But, yeah, Washington's a team I'm thinking every year, can they get an elite quarterback? Can they get an elite quarterback? What a couple years ago if they had an elite quarterback when Chase Young was healthy, and it wasn't Taylor Heineke in the 2020 playoffs. Could they have, done something? Because I thought that was a pretty good Washington team. Rookie healthy Chase Young, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat. That's when the defensive line was legit. And the linebacker they took a couple years ago from Kentucky, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's been underwhelming. Washington It just seems like that's the other thing. It seems like, the defense, other than the defensive line, it seems like every year they have a hole at linebacker or in the secondary. Emmanuel Forbes will help fill that, but the offensive line, a little bit of a question. The secondary linebacking core. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Commanders this year. But yeah, a roster with some talent, but also some holes. So thanks for tuning in to Big Time Football Talk. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.